Hello, this is July the 2nd, 1994, and I am Keith Ham, presently Chairman of the Council on Ministries of this United Methodist Church in Berryville, Arkansas. And our committee has decided that we would like to preserve some of the history and some of the memories that some of our older members have, that we might preserve it for the future, and also to record some of our current statistics and showing some of the beautiful grounds and this beautiful building that we have here in Berryville. This church was built in 1967, and Maury Freeberg, who was an architect and a member of our church at that time, designed this building. This is the playground area that we have for children. This playground area for children, really this area is for grades 3 and under, where they have the security of the fence, and the mothers can have the children play out here while there's church activities going on. This is our parking lot area that we built several years ago. We'll park 22 cars. This lets the people get out of their car and go into the church without walking in mud. This is our church van that we use for transporting children or anybody to activities that might be needed. Around the church in various places we have flower gardens that different Sunday school classes take their responsibility in keeping these flower gardens looking good. This is looking at the church from the north side. We have another play area for older children here that also is fenced in to give us security. This is taken on the south side of our educational beautiful area. Beautiful area here is a nice place to have picnics for the children and so forth. We're real proud of our grounds here. This is our foyer. As you enter the foyer from our front door, we come into the narthex. And here in the narthex is a beautiful cabinet that was built to keep our old papers and pictures in. And down in the bottom corner, in the center rather, of the cabinet is the cornerstone from the old church that was built in 1909. Up on the wall are some documents and records of the Sunday school and the church going back to the 1860s. This is taken in our library, and I'd like to make a few comments here before we start our interviews with our members. Actually, perhaps, and with some bias, I could say that our church presently is one of the foremost churches in our community in terms of membership, outreach to children and young adults, as well as service to the community needs. Gene Goins is our archivist, and June Ham is our communication coordinator, and together the three of us are going to meet with different older members of our church and give them the opportunity to recite and to recount some of their memories that will go back perhaps 30, 40, or even further back than that, so that we might have the opportunity to preserve these priceless information for those that come after us. The first Methodist Episcopal Church in Carroll County was organized about 1840 in Carrollton, so you can see the history of this church goes back about 154 years. Recalling and recounting this history is what we hope to accomplish with this tape, as we give these older members an opportunity to give us some of their memories. What can be learned from this church's past will help us in the future to better understand where we're going. We pray that God's blessing will continue to be with this congregation and guide us as we move into the future. Thank you. The first pioneer of the Berryville United Methodist Church that we'll be talking to is Anna Schuler. She and her husband Albert joined this church in 1937, and both were faithful members. Elbert served as church secretary for many years and was active until his death in 1992. Anna also was a very active and faithful member and now is confined to her home here in Berryville. So Anna, we're going to have you tell us about some of your early memories of this church. I think first I'm going to get a picture of the picture that was taken of you and Albert there. That's such a good picture. What year was that taken? Do you remember? How long ago?
You talking to me?
Yes, how long ago since you took that picture?
Well, it must have been 37 years.
Uh-huh. That's really a good picture. Okay, now I go back and I think you said, Anna, when you came, you thought the pastor here was a man by the name of Brown.
Right.
Do you remember over the years any outstanding incident that comes to your mind about the church that you think would be interesting?
I don't think I do. The women used to get in a squabble once in a while.
That happens, don't it? In the circles, maybe? Let's see, 1937 to 1994, we're talking about a good many years that you've been here in the church. I bet that you've seen a lot of things happen and changes made.
Yes, for one thing I remember, for several years we had the only garage in town. When we moved here we built a garage. We got the house so cheap and we built the garage, and everybody I guess drove by to look at the garage. They never had any garages, even before the tornado.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, one thing about it, you lived close enough to the church, it was always easy to walk back and forth, wasn't it?
Yes. They debated a long time before they built the parsonage away from the church, but they finally came to it to put it away from it.
Well, Anna, what was on that lot before they built this church that's there now in 1967? Was that just an empty, vacant lot?
I think so.
Uh-huh. Well, have you always lived here in this house?
Huh?
Have you always lived here in this house since you
Yes.
came? Yeah.
Ray Beck was chairman of the school board, and they had a thermometer. I don't know, it was downtown or at the school, and every time they'd get some money, they'd change the thermometer.
Was that when they raised money to build the school or the church?
The school.
I see. Do you remember when you moved from the old church down on Springfield Street up to the new church?
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that was 1967, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. What do you think the future holds for the church? You think it's going to grow?
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder.
Yeah.
I tell you, the Baptist is a lot stronger, I think, than Methodist Church.
I think right now we're seeing a lot of growth in the young kids over there with the MC Jam program. Have you had a chance to hear those kids sing? The children?
Yes, I don't think I ever heard that group sing.
Yeah, I think it's been several years since you were able to come out to church, hasn't it been? Is there anything else that you can remember about the church that you'd like to, what about the old church down on Springfield Street? Is there anything you remember about the old church down there?
Well, of course, the Sunday school activities were largely down in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And Mrs. McWethy used to lead the singing down there. I didn't have to try, so
Yeah.
she did that.
Well, you played the piano, didn't you? And you were a musician and played the piano and sang
I
at church?
don't think I played the piano much while we were here. Well, it was here in the house for a while, and then they decided they needed it worse at school.
Uh-huh.
They didn't have any. And
Yeah.
when it left, that's the last time I played.
Uh-huh. Were you in the old Raybeck class when it used to function years ago?
No, I never was in it.
Raybeck taught that. Did you know Mr. Sheppel, that they named one of the...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
She lived down here at the corner.
Yeah. And Neff Hammonds, one of the classes is named Neff Hammonds. Did you remember
Oh,
him?
yes.
Uh-huh. How large was the church when you came here? How many members, do you remember?
No, I don't. But I wanted to mention this about the Sheppels. You know, their son lost his life out in a snowstorm. He was flying I don't know what kind of a plane you call them, but there was just the two in it.
Uh-huh.
And they went down. They've never been heard of since.
They never found them, huh?
No.
No. I didn't know that. You don't remember what year that was?
No, I don't.
Uh-huh. Is there anything else that you remember about that you want to say?
Well, no, I don't think so. I want people to understand that I really felt that Albert's work was important.
Yes. I think everyone appreciated Albert and how serious he took his work. Albert was there every time the door opened up, I think. He was, how many years was he treasurer?
Well, I don't know. Do I know that?
Maybe all the time he was here? Was he always treasurer?
He was, from the time he came.
Uh-huh. Until just the year before he passed away, I think he was treasurer yet.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think everyone remembers and appreciates that. Well, it's been good to talk to you, Mrs. Schiller, and so we will close this part out then. The next pioneer of the Berryville United Methodist Church that we will be talking to is Mr. W.B. Kane. He became a member of this church in 1924 and with his wife Roxy have been faithful members through the years. Roxy passed away in 1990, and since that time Bill and his daughter Betty have continued very active in the church. Bill will tell us of some of the memories he has of the early years. Bill?
I became a member of the Methodist Church here in Berryville in 1924. I had been attending the Epworth League for 2 years before. John and Charles Wesley were the founders of the Methodist Church. They were born in Epworth, England. The Epworth League was named for their birthplace. A tornado in 1909 destroyed the Berryville Methodist Church. It was built back in 1909. For several years, the Sunday school classes were held in the auditorium. Later, a basement and Sunday school room were built. I have a picture here of the church that was blown down in 1909. There's some other pictures there of the area, but the lower left.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I got it.
The parsonage was built across Springfield Street from the church. My wife Roxy Kane and I were married in the parsonage January the 2nd, 1926 by the Reverend J.N. Wilford. Brother Wilford was pastor of the Methodist Church from 1923 until August of 1926. He went back to school 2.5 months before conference. Reverend Edgington finished out the conference year. The poster that we have in the church at this time shows Brother Edgington was coming here in 1925, but that was an error because he was a student in school and came just to finish out Brother Wilford's term for that conference year. Brother Wilford was really my favorite pastor. because, well, for one thing, he became blind later on, and his wife died, and I would hear from him occasionally through his daughter. The basement was built onto the old Methodist church, the next, and then was the Sunday school rooms, and the Rotary met for years every Tuesday in the basement of the church. My wife, Roxy, was the leader of one of the circles. The church was divided, the ladies divided up into 3 groups, and so each group had that every 3rd week. And I know my wife enjoyed that a lot, and I think all the ladies missed the Rotary when it was changed.
Yeah, that's good. And then you said they used the old church for a hospital at the time of the tornado, too.
At the time of the tornado on October 29, 1942, the basement of the Methodist church was used to keep people. There were a lot of people that had no homes. There were people injured, and it was used for that purpose, as well as other churches helped in that way.
Okay. Well, Bill, that's been very interesting, and we really appreciate you talking and putting this on tape so that we can remember some of these early things. And
I can tell something about what I think about the future of the church.
well, I've got a little more battery. Okay.
I think the future of our church here in Berryville has a good chance of influencing the whole area. All the churches here are cooperating, most of them at least, and they all realize that they have got to do something with their young people to keep them away from drugs and undesirable things. And I notice that most of the young people now have their children enrolled in Sunday school and in the leagues, young people's meetings at the end of the church.
Well, that's very good, Bill, and we really appreciate you taking time. And the next pioneer of the Berryville United Methodist Church we will be talking to is Thelma Crow. She became a member of this church in 1926 and has been a faithful member since that time. Thelma, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history and some of the events in your life and as it pertains to the church?
I was born in May of 1910 and grew up in the Pleasant Valley community west of Berryville. I attended church and Sunday school there. I went into the church as a young girl and was immersed in Kings River by my father, a licensed preacher. 2 of my friends were immersed at the same time. The Reverend Dan and Lita Champlin, brother and sisters. He later becoming a Baptist minister. They really leaned to the Baptist faith was the reason for the immersion. It disturbed me that I had no emotional feeling when I was saved, just a sense of peace. The minister explained to me that not everyone had an emotional feeling. We had the mourner's bench in our church, which was a bench at the front where anyone wanting to lead a better life knelt. We had revival meetings in July and August. No air conditioning, everyone usually took a hand fan. The Pleasant Valley Church became a part of the Methodist Church in Berryville in 1926. I moved to Berryville with my parents in 1929. That year I had graduated from high school.
Then tell me about that when you first came to town, you and Raymond, you had bought the house and lived up where the Pendleton insurance agency's at now?
And the storm in October of 1942 blew that house down, and then we moved down to our present location of 102 Eureka Street, and have lived there ever since.
Well, that's all very interesting, Thelma. I'd like to ask you some questions. I'd like to ask you the 4 questions that we've been asking. Number 1, is there any outstanding incident that you recall about the church or about the early times?
Well, I think the thing that impressed me most was just the fellowship with other young people, as we didn't have many young people in the Pleasant Valley community, and I enjoyed that, and of course was associated with Marietta Edens and Elizabeth Bingham during those years.
Do you look back over all the pastors that we've had here? Is there any that any of the pastors in the past that is outstanding or outstanding to you that you recall?
Well, I don't know that I had anything against any of the pastors, but I do remember Archie Boyd and the Reverend Downham. Now, he was pastor down in the old Methodist church on Springfield Street. Downham was, and moved to Fort Smith, and he has passed away since that time.
How has the church been of help to you in the past?
Well, I think fellowship is the biggest thing, really.
So then the last question is, and this is a hard one, but I'd like your opinion. What do you think the future holds for our church when you look down ahead?
Well, it's hard to tell, and I'm not much of a... But I think a community without a Methodist church, in my opinion, wouldn't be too good a place to live.
Well, I think that's very good, Thelma. Is there anything else that you think of now that you want to put on this tape?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, we really appreciate you coming down and talking for this, and the next pioneer of the Berryville United Methodist Church we will be talking to is Adelia Crowley. Adelia became a member of the Berryville Church in 1950 and has been a faithful and active member since that time. She has served in many capacities over the years, such as President of the United Methodist Women. And Adelia, why don't you share with us now some of the memories and things that you have about our church?
My first Sunday in the congregation of the Berryville Methodist Church in September of 1950 was also Mr. Edmund Dodson's first Sunday in the pulpit. I told him this day was the first for both of us. The second Sunday, as I was getting into my car at the curb, a figure in a flowing choir robe came flying down the steps. It was Bertha Sheppel, who played the organ, so had not been free to greet me on my first Sunday. She made sure she did not miss a second time. This was characteristic of Mrs. Sheppel, who is, in addition to playing the organ for many years, was active in every aspect of church life. WSCS, the choir, Sunday school, visitation, telephone calls, and cards. At one time, the Edith Martin Circle members responded to roll call by giving the number of contacts they had made during the month. Bertha's record was never equaled. When a notice appeared in a bulletin requesting volunteers to help in the church office, I offered my services. Edna Rose is the church secretary, and I helped her fold bulletins, sharpen pencils, or do whatever the day required. When she gave up this volunteer work, I took her place, and in time became the church's first paid secretary, getting $25 a month for 2 mornings a week. This is a pleasant change from helping my husband pick up rocks on our stony hillside. When Mr. Dodson was moved, he was succeeded by Reverend Archie Boyd. This was Mr. Boyd's first charge after leaving the chaplaincy of the Army. The transition was not easy, but he had chosen to make it because he had a young son whom he felt should be raised in civility.
Did you say that you recall that happened in your experience in this
I
church?
remember ice cream socials on the lawn of the old church. All the homemade cake and homemade ice cream that we could eat. Very lovely fellowship.
This would have been on the church down on Springfield Street.
Yes,
Yeah.
out in the yard. Take chairs out in the yard and
Yeah.
enjoy ourselves.
who would you say your most outstanding or favorite pastor over the years would be?
Well, Ed Dodson was tops for a long, long time until Victor Nixon came. And then it was a kind of a toss-up.
And how has the church been of help to you in the past?
Oh, it's been my right hand. It's just helped me in all situations. Losing my husband and learning to live alone, so forth.
What year did you lose your husband?
In 1982.
82. What do you think the future holds for our church?
Well, if we have faith, which is part of our way of living, we have many opportunities, many possibilities. It should just keep on, get better and better.
Well, that's good. Is there anything else that you think about it, Edie, that you want to put on this tape?
No, except to thank you for taking the trouble to gather up all these reminiscences.
Well, you know, that's been a real joy, and I've enjoyed it. The next pioneer of the Berryville United Methodist Church that we will be talking to is Elizabeth Spurlin. She became a member of this church in 1947, and both she and her husband Keeter were faithful members. Keeter passed away in June of 1993, and since that time, Elizabeth has continued to be very active and faithful in her attendance. Liv, tell us some of your memories and recollections of your experience in the Berryville United Methodist Church.
I will be speaking of the present church on at 400 the Bezor property. In March of 1960, an historic step was taken by the congregation when the decision was reached to move the church site. The congregation decided to purchase the property comprising the 400 block on Eureka Street, known as the Bezor property. Due to the generous givings of our congregation, this step became a reality. A building committee was appointed comprising of 6 members. Ray Beck became chairman of the building committee, and R.P. Keeter Spurlin became finance chairman. We met frequently and traveled to other churches to look at their architecture, and finally, after 6 years, a plan was accepted and a pledge drive began. Again, the congregation was very generous, and the sanctuary and classrooms were completed, and we held our consecration service on October the 1st, 1967, with Bishop Galloway presiding, assisted by Myers Curtis, district superintendent, and Calvin Mitchell, pastor. The following year, 1968, the Methodist Church and the Evangelical United Brethren Church merged to become the United Methodist Church. On February the 25th, 1973, Bishop Eugene M. Frank presided over the dedication ceremonies of the United Methodist Church of Berryville. The Reverend Victor H. Nixon was pastor. In the spring of 1974, the old parsonage on South Springfield Street was sold, and a 3-bedroom home on the corner of Linden and Jefferson Street was purchased. The minister's family moved into the new parsonage in June 1974.
Well, that's very interesting, Lib. You know, I had not heard those things myself, and I didn't realize that's what had happened. I'd like to ask you a question or two that you might could answer. And, for example, what outstanding incident do you recall, thinking back about your experiences in the church? Is there anything outstanding?
I remember 5 men joining our church on South Springfield Street in 1950, and my husband, Keeter Spurlin, was included.
You remember who the other 4 were?
Jack Hamby, Frank Crow, Frank Donaldson, and Roy McClellan.
Roy McClellan. Thinking back over the years, who would you say was your favorite pastor?
One of my favorites was Archie Boyd. He was a minister to everyone. and a leader, a good leader of the church.
I think
Good leader of the youth.
that would have been about what year? What years did he serve here? Do you recall?
Around 1950.
In the early 50s. If you were to think about what you think the future holds for our church, do you have any comments you would say as to what you see as the future of our church on down the road?
With the cooperation of the young and the old, we have a great future. I enjoy seeing the young people coming to our church. I enjoy the children participating, and with good leadership we can accomplish a lot.
Well, that sounds very good, Lib, and we certainly appreciate your... Lib, do you have a picture of you and Keeter there that we can get a close-up on?
Yes, I have, Keith.
Let me see if I can zoom in on that, and we'll see what that looks like. Yes, I believe we got that all right. Okay, well, Lib, we sure appreciate you taking your time to do this, and thank you a lot for sharing your memories with us. And Elizabeth joined the church in 1924. She and her husband, E.S. Bigham,
Yes, Si is what they
Si,
does
and
there.
Elizabeth has served in many different capacities and has been here about as long as anybody. And Elizabeth, why don't you share with us some of your memories about the church?
Memories of Methodism by Elizabeth Cleese Bigham. My grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. John Baldwin, and daughter Emma, moved to Berryville in 1907 from North Little Rock. They immediately joined the Methodist Episcopal Church South, located on South Springfield Street. The Baldwins were very active in the church. Daddy Baldwin was Sunday school superintendent for 25 years. Mammy Baldwin played the pump organ, piano, sang in the choir, and taught Sunday school. Their daughter Emma was also very active in the church. She married Donald Glees, and they had 3 daughters, Dixie, Elizabeth, and Irene. We were all baptized and confirmed in the Old Methodist Church. We were brought up to love our church. We didn't know anything else except Methodism. 5 generations our family are members of the United Methodist Church. At this time we had strong leadership. Mr. Douglas, Mr. Hodge, Mr. Baldwin, whose names are on the cornerstone. Others were Tom Baldwin, Mrs. Maples, who was Ruth Tribble's mother, Uncle George Whitson and Aunt Mary Clark, Mr. Boatwright, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Stowe, Mr. Rowlett, the Shepherds, and Mr. Gregson. I remember the little blue parsonage just south of the church. Later, a larger parsonage was bought across the street a few houses down. The things that I remember most as a child was our Sunday school teacher. Mrs. Maples was our kindergarten teacher. Our room was on the northwest corner of the old church in South Springfield Street, and on Easter Sunday she would have a lovely basket for us. This was the second church on that property. The first was destroyed by a tornado in 1908. My grandfather was on the building committee for what we now call the old church, with its fine square cut gray stone. My mother and Mrs. Donald Gleaves were active in the Missionary Society and opened her home and fed Rotary for the benefit of the church. She was awarded a medal for her church service. As the church grew and prospered, many wanted to move the church where they could have more room. Land was bought on Eureka Street, Highway 62, and construction began in 1968. Members of the church raised money by pledging according to their means. In 1978, a fellowship hall was added. The Fred Martins gave the initial amount of $25,000 to begin the project. Our church is growing and take part in all community activities and welcome everyone.
That's very good, Elizabeth. Did you want to elaborate a little more on how long the Methodist women served the Rotary Club?
Oh, goodness.
Long time.
They sure did a long
I
time.
did it too.
Yeah.
I remember.
I did it, we did it when I was, when our Wesleyan Guild.
Yeah, we were members of the Wesleyan Service Guild.
And did they use the proceeds from what they earned to furnish a kitchen? Is that what I understood?
Well,
Or partly?
the Sunday school addition, the education building as we called it, that addition to the original church, the main body of the old Methodist church was built on the foundation of the previous church that was destroyed. And the stone came from the Catholic orphanage in Eureka Springs that we built the new addition out of. And I wrote I'll quote again, I won't read this in my report, but I said there was enough chicken fried, enough potatoes mashed, enough rolls made, and enough pies baked to reach to the moon to pay for that. And that was the
I can remember
truth.
when Mother would make 7 pies or
Yeah.
cobblers
Yeah.
for Rotary nearly every week.
Well, they
whenever
met
needed
every
it.
week, and they really didn't like it when they quit either. 'Cause
Well, that's what Mr. W.B. Kane said, that Roxy missed it after the ladies quit that. I just thought I would have you
I don't
elaborate
know
on that.
anybody else that did, do you, Elizabeth?
While I'm still talking to you, Elizabeth, I might ask you who your favorite pastor was, or an outstanding pastor through the years that you recall.
Well, there's many of them that I liked, of those younger ones that I don't know that I could put my finger on. Just like when there was several, Mitchell and Murray and what was one in Little Rock now,
Vic Nixon.
Nick Nixon and I don't know, I can't.
John Morton.
Oh, Brother Workman,
We
yes,
saw him down at Vic.
yes, he was very good.
What do you think the future holds for our church, Elizabeth?
Well, I don't know, but I'm pretty strong for it, and anything they want to do.
Well, that's good. That's the kind of optimism we like to see and hear. Well, thank you a lot, Elizabeth. And the next pioneer that we're going to be talking to, and probably I think maybe our last, but certainly not the least, but is Marietta Edens. Marietta joined this church, I think, in 1924, and she has been so very active all through the years. Presently, she's worship liaison for the district, and she's also chairman of the worship committee for our local church, plus being our librarian and on the history committee. So Marietta is deep.
I
Jean?
would like to thank Keith Ham for doing all this work.
I think so too. He needs a.
Well, this has been a joy to do, and Jean, we appreciate you as archivist getting these records and pictures all together and preserving them. And Elizabeth, thank you for your part, and Marietta, thank you a lot for your extensive study. We appreciate it very much. The next pioneer of this church that we'll be speaking with is Edna Rhodes, and she has been a member of this church, or been associated with this church, since she was 5 years old, back in 1921, I think. Edna, why don't you share with us some of your experiences and memories that you have about this church?
One of my first memories in the church was our pianist, and it was Grandmother West. She was a grandmother of Herbert and Rolla West, and she played very aristocratic woman, and she played the piano, and I was very impressed with that. And also up in the front of the church there was 3 big chairs with high backs, and the superannuated ministers and important people sat there. Our presiding elder, which is now called the district superintendent, sat in the chair when they were there. One of the superannuated ministers was Marietta Eden's grandfather, and he administered communion, and I was always impressed when we had communion Sundays. My first Sunday school teacher was Mrs. Maples, who is Mrs. Ruth Trimble's mother, and we had little red chairs. There's one little boy that came to Sunday school who was Uncle Bob Boatwright's grandson, and he and I used to vie for a certain chair to sit in Miss Maple's class. At 16, I was superintendent of the junior division of the church and presided over the Bible school. Our young people's organization was called Epworth League in those days, and I got to go at a rather young age with my older brothers and sisters because I was the youngest of 11 children, and by that time my mother was glad to get me out of the house, and she was pretty tired at that. Now it's now called, when I was in high school, it was changed to the Methodist Youth Fellowship, and we met once a month with the young people from Green Forest and Eureka Springs on Sunday afternoons, and the fellowship was wonderful and the training was wonderful. And I attended 2 sessions of assembly at Hendricks. I remember the old wooden collection plates, and Mr. Sweezy and Mr. Spitzy were the ones who passed the plates. When I first started to come to Sunday school, the sanctuary, the church was just one big room, and then they added on a room to the north, a large section which they divided off with movable partitions for the Sunday school classes, and that was later remodeled and made into more permanent Sunday school classes, and a little room that they used for small weddings and things. So we had our potluck dinners in this section of the church in the north of the sanctuary. And I don't remember a kitchen. I was trying to remember last night but we had many potlucks and lots of fellowship in this room. I started to sing in the choir at a very young age, and I enjoyed practicing for cantatas and choir practice. There was a lot of young people who sang in the choir at that time, and the first choir director I remember when I was in high school was Kate Gregson. I married my husband, Paul Rhodes, in 1939, and Brother Downham performed the wedding ceremony. And that winter, the addition was built with the basement and the upper story there. Back then there were no backhoes, and the basement was dug out with the pick and shovel and carried out with a wheelbarrow. And Brother Downham and some men went to Eureka Springs, and I believe that they purchased, I believe it was $600 that they paid for this stone building that had been a hotel down across from where the Grand Central Hotel is now in Eureka Springs, and they moved the stone and the lumber that they could get over to Berryville, and that was what that section of the church was built with. And they had many potlucks while they were building that, and the church members came and worked on it, and I even drove a few nails myself in the subfloor in the upstairs section.
You're talking about the church on Springfield Street that was built in 1907?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
And there was no indoor plumbing in the church until after we had this section built on. And the kitchen was built on, and the ladies took the job of cooking on Tuesdays for the Rotary Club. And I never was a chairman, but I helped several of the different chairpersons prepare dinner for the Rotary. And we always enjoyed cooking for them, and they always bragged on our food. And at one time I made the pies. I couldn't help with the dinner on Tuesday, but I made the pies for the dinner. And once we served the Chamber of Commerce down there and several VIPs, including Winthrop Rockefeller. And once when Brother Ed Dodson was here, we had Governor Sid McMath come for our lay speaker, and he flew in out to the little airport. We had Fred Boyer had a little landing strip out on their farm, and they had to shoo the cows off so the governor could land. And he got to the church, and the state police were scheduled to meet him at the airport, but he got there ahead of him, so he was already at the church. Some of the prominent members that I remember through the years were Florence Sewell and the Sweezys and the Sheppels and the Spitzeys and the Boyers and the Canes and the Hancocks and the Maples and Miss Ruth McEwen and the Baldwins and the Gleaves and the Brashears and the Gregsons, the Schulers, the Will Canes, and the Freeburgs, the McWethies, the Thomas, and the Laughlins, and the Hodges. And in my family, my older sister Thela Fry and her husband and children belonged at one time. Rita and Abby Graham, another sister. My brother Jim, my sister Fanny, my sister Kate, my sister Bill, and I were all members of the church. I joined when I was 10 years old, and Brother Burton was the pastor when I joined.
We have also Jean Goins, our archivist. Jean, did you think of anything that you would want to add or ask Edna while she's sitting here?
No, I didn't think of anything. She's got a lot of history in there, in her talk. And it's something we'd like to preserve.
Edna, I might ask you the question that we've asked the others. You've answered, I think, several of them already in your talk, but what do you see as the future of our church looking down the road?
Well, I think we have a great group of younger people who are working in our church, and we have quite a few children, and the children are the future of our church, and if we can continue to gain families and keep these younger people working, and that our future will be ensured.
Well, I think that's very good, Edna, and we really appreciate your time that you take to come down and do this, and the interesting memories that you've shared with us. I'm sure that we will enjoy seeing these as we look at this later on, and thank you again, Edna.
You're welcome.
The next pioneer that we'll be talking to of the Berryville United Methodist Church is Clarice Harper. Clarice is 94 years old, and she joined our church, I think she said, in 1945 or thereabouts, between there and 1950. But Clarice is going to share with us some of the experiences that she remembers from our church. Clarice? Go ahead now and tell us about.
Well, of course, Rotary was the first thing I was involved with. And I would go around and collect the money. We had a different group every Tuesday serving Rotary. And I would collect the money, you know, when our bills are paid and so forth. Then as soon as we had $200 in the treasury, it went into a CD. And so we wound up, I think, with several $1,000s, you know, and that money, of course, was for the new church. And I had an awful time with Ray Beck, because Ray Beck wanted to get a hold of the money that we had, and I wouldn't let him, because I knew that when the church was built, we wanted to put in all the, you know, the equipment in the kitchens, which we did finally. And so we bought quite a lot of that. And then I remember the bazaar we had, beautiful bazaar. Everybody was involved in that bazaar. And I think I made a report and put it in a loose leaf binder, you know. But somehow that disappeared, and somebody needed the loose leaf binder, I think. And then we had another, well, we had rummage sale every year, and they were good rummage sales because we'd make $6,000 to $1,000 out of a rummage sale, and of course that went into the church. And I wish I could find that. I looked all day yesterday trying to find the little leaflet that I had, because I was treasurer, you know, for 2 or 3 years. And at the end of my term, I decided I should make a report. And so since we were in the mimeograph business, I had a mimeograph and sent a copy to each member of the WSCS. And then we became the UMW. Then I was no longer the treasurer. So.
Well, that's very interesting, Clarice. You were talking about the pastors that you've known down through the years. Is there any of the pastors that stands out in your mind as being a favorite of yours?
Well, I would say Boyd was one of them, because the Boyds would come out to our place when we built. We built a house on the Rock Springs Road, halfway between here and Eureka. And they would come out and play cards with us. And I enjoyed that. And then workmen, of course, would come out every once in a while. And then we had one pastor who was not married. I think he was sort of handicapped.
Harvest Lawson.
Lawson, yeah. And we liked him. He used to come out, and my husband liked him so well. And then, of course, workmen. We liked him.
Gene, is there something that you think that we should ask Clarice now about? We talked about the Rotary quite a bit when you served the Rotary, and I think you mentioned something about that. Do you remember how many ladies were involved in serving?
Well, we had a group of 5, I know, every Tuesday, different 5, you know, every Tuesday. And the ones in my group, Roxy Kane was our leader then. There was Lucy Haley and Vesta Cole. Now, Vesta Cole was just sort of a replacement. If somebody couldn't come, why she would come. And Mildred Boyd, very rarely, and Violet Keck, and Mandy Weeks, and Jessie Lockland. And if we had pie, Mrs. Gleaves would furnish the pie, bake a pie for her. And since I was driving, usually I was the one to go get the pies.
How many men did you serve in Rotary?
40.
40?
40. That was we were supposed to serve 40. And I think we were paid for 40, whether we had 40 there or not. And of course, out of that, we had to buy our groceries. So we didn't make all that much money, but I think we had, maybe $22 or $23 every week, you see, with that. And that adds up when you get $22 or $23 a week.
Back then it added up.
So we didn't always have that, because depending on what we'd serve, if we served chicken wing, it might be a little more expensive, or ham, you know. But anyway, we paid for our groceries out of our proceeds.
Do you remember when they stopped serving Rotary?
Oh, well, that was after the new church was built. We didn't serve Rotary after that.
That would have been in 68, 67.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Was the money that you earned serving Rotary used for a special purpose?
Well, serving, buying the equipment for the kitchen, for the new church.
The stoves.
Yeah.
And we also gave some money to the, to the building fund.
What do you see, looking down the road, the future of our church being, Clarice?
Well, there are so many new members now, I don't know those new members at all. But then why would I? Because I don't go to the meetings, our society meetings, and I don't go to church. So I have no contact with them. But I think it's growing. I think it will continue to grow.
She might mention who she listens to on Sunday morning, and since she can't come to church.
I listen to Nixon from Pulaski Heights in Little Rock.
On TV.
On television.
And
He's on every Sunday at on Channel 4.
What years was Victor Nixon pastor here?
Oh, well, I've got the books.
Do you remember, Gene?
No. Probably in the late 70s or early 80s.
I was gonna say, my books are up there, then I guess you wouldn't recognize them, but I had we had our names and addresses, you know,
Yeah.
and I had them out yesterday, that's why I was looking for these names. I didn't find all the names in there either.
Do you think of anything else, Gene, we need to ask Clarice while we're here?
Unless she recalls any incident that was amusing or memorable.
Well, of course, we put that was UMW, put the knitting lines in the church, you know.
Clarice, we really appreciate you taking time and sharing your memories with us, and we wish you well in the future and
Thank you.
and compliment you for being so pretty and so spry on being 94 years old. This is quite an accomplishment.
I'm not very spry.
Well, you're doing very well, and thank you very much for taking time and doing this.
Well, I did.
And this is